Dear students, welcome to RATS, Racing Against Time for Students in Pathology. A case history. We present a case of a 60 years old man with progressive shortness of breath on exertion for the past 2 months. The cardiac ultrasound showed a left ventricular hypertrophy. A year ago, he had presented at the local hospital with several episodes of paroxysmal atrial fibrillation, for which he was accordingly treated. Now, in spite of intensive treatment at the present hospital, the patient passed away. What is a clinical differential diagnosis? Identify the organ and the changes in it that we shall be seeing on the screen. This is the nature of the question, an essay or a short essay, and the mark breakup is given within the brackets. All of us know that this is the heart, but then there is a massive enlargement of the left ventricle. Moreover, it appears much paler than the beefy brown or red color that the heart usually has. So our diagnosis should be amyloidosis. Fine. This question has been haunting us as students for the past 50 years and shall continue to do so in future. The importance of it is given in the enclosure, and it cuts across various subjects as well as a difficult diagnosis to make. Something that I picked up: work hard in silence and let the success be the noise. Let us hope that we see the noise at the end of the class. Think of the subheadings. The subheadings will take you to the answer. And this is an autopsy specimen retrieved from a patient with amyloidosis, and there has been a mahogany brown lesion in the myocardium. This was painted with Lugol's iodine to produce a brown color, which later on, when painted with dilute sulfuric acid, produced a blue color. Classical Graf's diagnosis of amyloid. The term was first described by Rokitansky in 1842 and subsequently Rudolf Virchow, the father of pathology whom you are seeing on the screen, termed it as amyloid. Amyloid means starch-like. He thought it to be a carbohydrate and hence the name amyloid. But later, a couple of gentlemen whose names are here in the year 1859 found that to be a protein. So amyloid is not a starch but a protein. Incidentally, this is a specimen of the liver, and I'm not seeing the brown color. There is an element of pallor in it. It is shiny. And this is a microscopic picture where the hepatic parenchyma is being separated by pale eosinophilic acellular material. Definitions are definitions. It is a proteinaceous substance deposited in the extracellular spaces within the tissue or organ. And it is pale, homogeneous, amorphous, eosinophilic, and acellular. All these adjectives are essential in your definition. We do not want own words. Now that it has been found to be a protein, 90% of it is a pure protein and 10% glycoprotein. This is an electron microscopic picture of the amyloid fibrils, which Robbins described as non-branching, never-ending fibrils. Non-branching, never-ending fibrils. This picture shall be of paramount importance in my class. As I had mentioned earlier, it is composed of non-branching fibrils that I am seeing over here. And here a couple of fibers are paired together by means of a P component. This is a P component that we are seeing. Now what happens is these fibers are arranged in sheets, which we call as beta pleated sheets. This is a two-dimensional description, beta pleated sheets. Now when they are arranged along with each other, they produce a three-dimensional cluster that is seen. So this is a three-dimensional cluster of the beta pleated sheets. And there can also be some receptors which will take up the stain for the Congo red molecules, with which the amyloid can be stained or demonstrated. So let us describe it once again. Paired filaments, never-ending non-branching fibrils connected by the P component, beta pleated sheets united to form a three-dimensional structure, and these have receptors for the Congo red molecules. I hope you people will be able to recite this without faltering and draw this. This incidentally is another way of describing it. These are all the fibrils which have been connected by means of the P component which I have described earlier. And sets of these are all arranged around a pentamer. A pentamer is a five-sided structure and I am finding five of these. And this forms the center of it, which measures about 4 microns, nanomicrons. And the entire structure will be measuring about 9 to 10 nanomicrons. So this is the structure of the amyloid under the electron microscope, and it is a diagrammatic representation. So when seen under the electron microscope, it has got a downward shape with an external diameter of 9 nanomicrons and an internal diameter of 4 nanomicrons. Described beautifully by means of Riaz Bhatta in the 1980s and from Pakistan. I would like to acknowledge this series of people for their contribution to labpedia.net, which is worth going through. There are two types of amyloid. We'll be concentrating on one, the amyloid light chain, AL amyloid, which is being secreted by the B cells. B cells are the lymphocytes which later on become the plasma cells. And there are two types of it, the kappa and the lambda light chains. The patient may be positive for the Bence-Jones protein also. So incidentally, they will be forming what is called as amyloid light chain, AL amyloid. We shall be seeing this repeatedly. So obviously, we have to draw this also. Those days, amyloid used to be divided into primary amyloidosis and secondary amyloidosis. I take secondary amyloidosis first. And there is a stupid mnemonic, arthroscope, which again I picked up. Wonderful. Whether it has got any meaning or not, so long as my student is able to recollect, it has got logic. And this is the meaning of it. A for ankylosing spondylitis, R for renal cell carcinoma, T for tuberculosis, H for Hodgkin's, R for Reiter's syndrome, osteomyelitis, S for Sjogren's, C for chronic infections such as leprosy, others which include bronchiectasis, P for paraplegia with infection, and E for enteritis, Crohn's disease, etc. So this is a beautiful mnemonic, and even if you people can remember diseases such as tuberculosis, Hodgkin's disease, and leprosy, it is good enough. This is just a picture of a splenic vessel, and as I told you, it is not within the vessel or within the cell. It is in the extracellular space. There is a deposit of amyloid in the splenic vessel wall. The stains for amyloid will be a classical question. Before I go into it, As I had mentioned, this is a H&E stain in which I am finding pale, eosinophilic, amorphous, acellular material that is deposited in between the cells in the interstitial spaces. And in a H&E stain that we usually use, it produces a red color or a pinkish red color that we are seeing. But in order to confirm that it is amyloid, we have to look at it under a polarizing microscope in which it will be giving a greenish tinge. Actually, the books will be describing it as apple green birefringence, which is supposed to be a classical outcome of a stain with Congo red. Please remember this. This will again be repeated anyway. There are some clinical signs and symptoms that can be caused by amyloidosis. In the CNS, there can be dizziness, GAT, diarrhea or constipation, lung dyspnea, skin thickening, tongue, a tumor amyloid can be seen, heart, cardiomegaly and arrhythmias. Probably this is the cause of death in the case history that we had given. And in the kidney, there can be the development of a nephrotic syndrome. And this incidentally, I am again able to see the apple green birefringence in the myocardial fibers or in between the fibers. What are the major forms of amyloid? The major forms of amyloid, I would like you people to kindly concentrate on these two, AL amyloid and AA amyloid. What am I trying to say? So this is it. It can be because of an unknown carcinogen, particularly in the case of a multiple myeloma or a B lymphocyte proliferation, which will be producing immunoglobulin light chain. B cells will be producing immunoglobulin and plasma cell is a malignancy. And this will lead to an abnormal protein called as AL protein. So this is one way of genesis of the amyloid, the production of AL amyloid. Then in chronic inflammation, secondary amyloidosis, we have got another type of amyloid called AA amyloid, which means amyloid associated protein. So in chronic inflammation, there is activation of the macrophages. The interleukin 1 and 6 are produced, which lead to the precursors called as SAA, serum amyloid associated protein. And finally, there is a deposit of amyloid that happens. These two we people shall and will remember. And there are the other types of amyloids also, which can happen because of mutation. There is a product called as transthyretin, and it can be producing ATTR protein or amyloid transthyretin protein. So this is ultimately the subheading. So what is the stimulus? It can be a carcinogen, it can be a mutation, it can be chronic inflammation. And what is the misfolded protein? It is this SAA protein transthyretin. And finally, insoluble protein is the ultimate product that we get. AL protein, AA protein or ATTR protein. Please do remember this particular one. Pathogenesis of amyloidosis is the question for you. And it is great because I had designed this tabular column by myself. Please draw this. Classification of amyloid. Again, not very difficult, but then we should remember. It will appear a little laborious, but please put up with me. Earlier, when we were students, amyloid used to be divided into primary amyloidosis and secondary amyloidosis alone. Primary because the cause was not known. But today it is because of multiple myeloma, and because of that we get ultimately AL amyloid, amyloid light chain. And the precursor for this is immunoglobulin light chain. Secondary amyloidosis, as we had seen earlier in any chronic inflammatory diseases, amyloid associated protein, and the precursor is serum amyloid associated. Amyloid can also be due to a number of other causes. So, hemodialysis. Patients on hemodialysis, chronic renal failure can develop a type of amyloid called as beta 2 microglobulin. Luckily, the precursor is also the same. And hereditary, familial in the Mediterranean region. It can be that it is again AA, amyloid associated, serum amyloid associated protein. Sometimes in the brain, in the nervous system, in neuropathies such as Alzheimer's disease, there is a deposition of the transthyretin. So all these are systemic amyloidosis. So one other way of dividing is systemic and localized. Localized will be within certain tissues or structures, such as heart, the cardiac amyloid which we had seen, cerebrum, endocrine. So in the cerebrum, we'll be having the Alzheimer's disease, whereas in the endocrine, we'll be having the medullary carcinoma of thyroid, which develops from calcitonin. So please do remember this particular tabular column. What are the organ changes in amyloid? We shall be seeing them. So as explained earlier, there is a massive enlargement of the heart. The heart myocardium is pale. It is enlarged. We call it a concentric hypertrophy because all the walls are uniformly thickened. And moreover, it has got a pale glue attached to it. And look at this one. These are the myocardial fibers. The dark pinkish red are the myocardial fibers, in between which we are seeing pale, eosinophilic, acellular, amorphous. Amorphous means there is no structure to it. That is deposited. So obviously this will be developing a lot of pressure effects. It can be impinging onto the conduction system. Patient can go in for a conduction defect or a cardiac arrest. So this can happen in systemic amyloidosis and senile amyloidosis, enlarged pale accumulation between myocardial and in the vessel walls. What are the modes of diagnosis of amyloid? It can be the biopsy, and these are the common sites from which a biopsy is taken, either the skin or the gingiva, rectum, and the kidney. And what are the stains for amyloid? Initially, we had seen this. It turns light brown with iodine. That means different, and chromium means color. There are some stains which will be producing a different color to amyloid, such as crystal violet. You find that the rest of the tissue will be taking a violet color, amyloid will be taking up a pink color. Same with methyl violet. Rest of the tissue takes up a violet color, amyloid takes up a pink color. Fluorescence can be there by means of two stains called as thioflavin T and thioflavin S. And this has to be seen under a fluorescent microscope. So these are the stains for amyloid. Please do by heart. It can be an MCQ, it can be a Viva OC, whatsoever. And if you do write it in the examination, you score the marks. Sometimes stains for amyloid itself is a question. By electron microscopy is another mode of diagnosis, and I had explained it earlier. Coming back to the organ changes, this is a spleen. I'm able to see the splenic notch over here, and there are multiple small nodules that are present throughout the cut surface. And look at this grains over here. These are called the sago seeds or the tapioca seeds, which have got this kind of an appearance. The same appearance is seen. That is why it is described as a sago amyloid. There are two types of the lesions over here. There is a higher magnification in which I am finding the multiple small granules. For postgraduate students, this can also indicate 1. Miliary tuberculosis, 2. Lymphomatous deposits, and third one can be amyloid, a sago spleen. So these are the differential diagnoses which you people can note down. 1 is miliary tuberculosis, 2 is lymphoma, third one can be amyloidosis. And this is it. There are two types of amyloidosis of the spleen. In one, I am finding these are the splenic follicles. Follicles means there will be the accumulation of the lymphocytes. So in that region, there is amyloid deposition, and see, it is a stain in which there is a homogeneous, eosinophilic, acellular material that is being deposited. The intervening tissue is unaffected. So this is called as a sago spleen because it resembles the sago grains that we had earlier shown. So it is called a sago spleen. And in amyloid, there can be an enlargement of the spleen. It can go up to 800 grams. The normal weight is about 150 grams, but it is paler, much paler than the usual spleen that we see. And this is another lesion in the spleen itself. In this one, I am finding that it is intervening, interconnected, pale, lace-like material. Lace-like material. I used to take that as a mnemonic because it is called as Lardaceous spleen. Lardaceous means lace-like. So there are two patterns of deposits. One is the sago spleen, in which I am finding the nodules at the follicles. Two is a Lardaceous spleen. Along the splenic sinusoids, throughout the spleen it can be seen. So these two, I would like you people to kindly draw this. Another organ which can be affected, this is for comparison that I had given. Look at the texture and the color alone. The kidney here is slightly enlarged in the earlier stages. Later on, it can be decreased because of fibrosis. But more important is it is pale, it is waxy, and it is glistening. Waxy means you can feel the slippery nature of it without touching it. And in the normal histology of any kidney, we are supposed to look for the glomerulus, the interstitium, and the blood vessels. These are the components. And this is a normal glomerulus, and this is a tuft of capillaries that I am seeing. Compare it with this. The entire glomerulus is being replaced by a homogeneous eosinophilic material, and it is confirmed to be amyloid by means of special stains. So, courtesy is from Stanford Healthcare. In this patient, there is a massive enlargement of the tongue, a macroglossia, but it is pale again, shown by means of the arrow, homogeneous. And it is a typical case of a tumor amyloid. This, incidentally, is the brain. The normal brain is shown over here in another one. It happens in senile cases. There is an atrophy over here. But when I look at it microscopically, this is a normal brain over here. But then there are some plaque. Plaque is nothing but a deposit of a substance which can be either above or below the cut surface. And these are the plaques which can be seen, amyloid plaques. And they are found to be AB peptides found in Alzheimer's disease. I would like you people to kindly describe the histology. Okay, let us see this one. It is a pale, eosinophilic, acellular, amorphous material in the extracellular spaces of the tissue or organ. Can you identify the tissue? I'll give you 1 minute time. Can you identify? Look at these structures. And then this. We are not sure, we shall see. So here I am finding the amyloid, and then this is the ciliated epithelium over here. These are the mucous glands. This is the amyloid over here. And then there are multiple gas spaces. So it is a section from the lung that has been having deposits of amyloid. What can be the complications of amyloid? When it is in the heart, it is going to cause arrhythmias and sudden death. In the thyroid, it is associated with medullary carcinoma. In the stomach, it can be associated with undifferentiated carcinoma. Spleen, there can be a splenomegaly. Stomach or the GIT, there can be constipation, diarrhea, malabsorption. Kidney, obviously, there will be a renal failure and a nephrotic syndrome. What can be the prognosis of the amyloid? AL amyloid, it has got a poor prognosis. The survival is less than 1 year. AA amyloid in chronic inflammations, etc., 1 to 4 years. Whereas in the others, transthyretin, it has got a better prognosis, more than 5 years. There is no definite treatment for amyloid, but we can prevent the development of a precursor protein. And this is a specimen of the spleen once again. Spleen always, whatever be the shape, we identify it by means of the notch. And look at the pallor over here. This is not the usual color of the spleen. And this is the splenic follicle over here. And this is a sago spleen. And here it is lace-like, called the Lardaceous